Mechanism of ventilation of the lungs. Ventilation of the lungs necessary to maintain high oxygen, low carbon dioxide in the alveoli or the gas exchange services. Ventilation accomplished by breathing, which is the alternating movement of air into the lungs. Inhalation. Alternating movement of the air out of the lungs. Exhalation. Human employee referred to as negative pressure breathing, where air is pulled rather than pushed into the lungs. Inhalation is an active process. The contraction of rib muscles, intercostal muscles, diaphragm. Diaphragm, which is the sheathing of skeletal muscles that force the bottom of the thoracic cavity, leads to the expansion of the thoracic cavity. Visceral pleura, parietal pleura surrounding the lung stick together due to surface tension of the fluid between these two membranes. This allows the two membranes to slide smoothly past each other. Hence, as the volume of the thoracic cavity increases, lung volume increases as well. As a result, pressure within the lungs decreases related to the outside air. This creates a pressure gradient between the atmosphere and the lungs. Air flows from high pressure gradient in the atmosphere to a low pressure gradient in the lungs. During exhalation, which is the passive process, rib muscles diaphragm relax. This causes volume of the thoracic cavity to reduce. As a result, pressure inside the lung increases related to the air outside. This pressure forces air to move out of the lungs through the respiratory tube into the atmosphere. When a man is at rest, contraction of the rib muscles, contraction of the diaphragm, enough for breathing, depending on the activity level. Additional muscles, the muscles of neck, muscles of back, muscles of chest, help to increase the volume of the thoracic cavity by raising the rib cage. Example during exercise. Lungs serve as efficient respiratory surface because the alveoli create large surface area for gas exchange. Alveoli capillary walls are lined by simple squamous epithelium, which reduce the distances the gases need to travel by diffusion. Alveoli surface is moist to dissolve respiratory gases for diffusion. Alveoli are highly vascularized, which enables the maintenance of a steep diffusion gradient of respiratory gases. Gas exchange at the alveoli tissues is a continuous process. It requires the transport of O2 from the lungs to the blood. Movement of CO2 from the blood referred to as an external respiration. Movement of O2 from blood to the tissues. CO2 from tissues to the blood referred to as the internal respiration. Diffusion of O2 and CO2 requires a partial pressure gradient between the alveoli air in the lungs and the blood during external respiration. Blood and tissues during internal respiration. During inhalation, fresh air mixes with the stale air in the lungs. This mixture in the lungs has a high partial pressure of oxygen (PO2), low partial pressure of CO2 (PCO2) than the blood in the alveolar capillaries. There is a concentration gradient favoring the diffusion of these two gases in opposite direction. Net diffusion of O2 takes place from air in the alveoli to the blood. Net diffusion of CO2 takes place blood into the alveoli. When O2 molecules diffuse into blood capillaries, they bind to hemoglobin in the red blood cell. 4 molecules of O2 bind reversibly with 1 molecule of hemoglobin, form oxyhemoglobin, HbOH. That's a Hb plus 4 O2 molecules form HbOH. When blood leaves alveolar capillaries, O2 and CO2, the partial pressures are in the equilibrium with those of alveolar air. Once of these blood returns to the heart, it is pumped through the systemic circuit. Blood reaching the tissues in the systemic capillaries have higher PO2, low higher PO2 and lower PCO2 than in the tissues. Partial pressure gradients result in the net diffusion of O2 from the bloodstream into the tissues. CO2 diffusion gradient from the cells into the bloodstream across the extracellular fluid, interstitial fluid is called unloading of O2 and loading of CO2. Then the blood returns to the heart, pumped to lungs again.